What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back to the Inside Wisconsin Show here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts and wherever you follow us on social media. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson. Wait, J.A., you're in retirement now. I thought you were going to maybe get on social media. Is that not happening?
What brings that up?
Nothing. I just said wherever you listen to us on social media and see our clips.
So here's the thing, because the youngsters here, the children's, they are all over that. And so I kind of had to have, I'll put it this way. There's an Instagram account and there's a Twitter or a /X account, not without the blue check, whatever, that is there. And I had posted nothing on either of them until I accidentally hit the wrong button down at the SEC championships. And that sort of went to some people. So I've gotten a lot of are you on social media? I'm like, well, sort of, but no. So I do have accounts. They are not, I don't follow people much. I don't have, you kind of have to post stuff to be relevant. So I'm just telling you in the dark there. Yeah. There's a little.
Weird. I haven't gotten the notification that you followed us on the show. That's the weirdest thing.
I'm on the down low.
Okay,
I don't even know how to do that. I've followed some people only because they randomly pop up, and there's other people that have said, dude, how come you follow Trevor, but you don't follow Jim? And I'm like, I don't even know how to find Jim. So
we're on the lookout. Lots has changed over the years. Look at you.
How much I like your shirt today.
Oh, thanks.
And the reason I say that is because I got up this morning and I thought, I'm gonna wear that. We're talking to Mark Murphy. I'm gonna put on my greenback, and then for some reason I just spaced off because I'm old that way. And I put this on and I walked out and I'm like, you know what? I'm too lazy to go back. And thank God. Otherwise it would look like mom laid out her clothes for the show this morning.
Was you have the same one?
Yeah, it's the exact same one. So luckily I'm like, okay, good. I got my caddy on. But otherwise we would have just literally people would not have been able to tell us apart.
Uh-huh. Other than your full head of lettuce. Thanks a lot. Our guest today, Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy. So much has changed during his tenure here the last 17 plus years as the Packers prez, and now outgoing, but not before a huge party for the NFL draft that he's throwing for himself. Yeah. What a great way to say we'll see you later. John, you've known Mark for a number of years. You guys go back a little bit, yeah?
Well, so I've known him and have visited with him on occasion and spent a little time with him here and there. I did. When we were at the game in London, I hosted a couple of things at the pubs there. And the funniest thing that happened is we were riding back, he and I and Aaron Popke, we were just going back to the hotel. And he asked me what I was going to do after I got done with ESPN. Was I close? And we discussed it. And he said, well, unlike you, I don't have this forced kind of retirement. I said, but I've kind of got an idea when I'm going to go. And he said, would you ever come back to Green Bay? And I said, honestly, maybe to be the CEO and maybe to be the president, but I can't do both jobs. So whichever one you don't want. And then I think he was like, how soon do we get back to the hotel? I don't know. How did I get, I'm in this, why am I in the car with this clown? So I offered to do one of the jobs, but apparently you can't split them. And that's why I'm here instead of there in Green Bay running the whole damn franchise. Because what don't you know, that would be instant Super Bowl success.
Yeah. Have you ever held the Lombardi Trophy, by the way? And then we'll jump into the interview.
I have.
And
the only thing, what's really crazy is one time I tried to get one when ESPN did its Titletown thing. And they went and they tried, where's Titletown, USA? Which, by the way, ended up being Valdosta, Georgia. What the hell?
Nah.
Anyways, so I really wanted to get one. And I called, can somebody just bring me a Lombardi Trophy? This is how just audacious I was. It's ESPN, right? You'll bring us something. Because what I really wanted to do was go, okay, Titletown, here, let me make an argument. And I just wanted to slam it on the table and go, now what do you got? And just leave it at that, right? That's all I'm going to do. Here, I'm just going to make Green Bay's argument for Titletown. Next. See if anybody could beat us. And eventually Valdosta did, and maybe it's because they didn't pull that off. Otherwise, that would have been the thing. But Mark's got one of those.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. If you don't know him, you live under a rock. The Packers president and CEO, Mark Murphy, on the Inside Wisconsin show. Mark, we've been chasing you for a while. Thanks for giving us your time today.
No, that's great. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad that we're getting to talk to you while you're still a somebody, because in a few months here's just another guy that lives in Green Bay. Which is so. You're a lawyer, though. I feel like this is the 70. The age limit is we've got an age discrimination suit. I also think sometimes that's really great because now you don't have to worry about am I staying too long or staying. They let you know what it is. But like, how do you feel about
John? I when I took the job, I knew it. But
yeah.
it seemed like it was, whoa, that's way down the road. It's amazing how 18 years flies by.
Oh.
But I think it's a good rule. I think it's a good policy.
Yeah.
Speaking of policy, my replacement.
There you go.
But no, it's really funny. It's gonna. My predecessor, Bob Harlan, was president for 18 years. I will be president for 18 years, and Ed Policy is 52 when he will take over. So hopefully he'll stay 18 years. It's good for the organization. I think it gives having that kind of stability at any position makes sense. But I think 18 years is enough, and I'm excited to see what Ed's going to do with the organization going forward.
What is the hardest part of leaving this job?
It's the most unique job. First of all, the organization's phenomenal. The support that we get from our fans. John, you're from Green Bay. It's such a unique organization, and I just feel very privileged to have been in this position as long as I have been. And I think like any job, you have good days and bad days, but I really, really feel very fortunate to have had this certainly for this many years, and can't never take for granted the kind of support that we get. I think our ownership structure, being community owned, and I think that connection we have with our fans, because so many of them are shareholders, really gives us a big advantage relative to other teams in terms of the kind of support we get.
You might be leaving the job, but I doubt you're leaving the community. I've actually lived in De Pere, Mark, as long as you have. We moved here in 2007. What has the community aspect of this meant to you over the years?
Oh, it's been great. My wife and I love it here. I think, a lot of people, they look and say, oh, he's from New York. Well, there's a big difference between New York City and where I grew up in Buffalo, went to college, and ended up working at Colgate for quite a while in central New York. And that's really more like Green Bay. But we just love it here. And particularly, we'll split our time now between Green Bay and Door County. We'll spend a lot more time up in Door County. We just love the whole area.
As you leave with 18 years under your belt, the thing you learned in those 18 years that you thought, boy, that'd have been really good information to have on day one.
Oh my gosh. I feel pretty fortunate that I'd been around the league long enough to know how different Green Bay was. But I think one of the things, and I'm talking to members of the media here, I didn't really realize the kind of media coverage that the Packers get. It's really unlike, and the media has changed so much in the last 18 years, how teams are covered, and but the interest in our fan base just never ceases to amaze me. That's something that I wish I'd known. I wish I had a better sense of before I took the job.
Mm-hmm. So that said, since you felt really well prepared, and you said Ed gets the job and he gets to run, but is there a piece of advice if you were going to leave the whole presidential White House letter on the desk? What would you say? Hey, make sure that this is something that you will need to know over your hopefully 18 years.
It really helps to have a good quarterback. So, and early in my tenure, Brett Favre, I think like one of my first few months of the job, he retired. And we're like, uh-oh, we have this kid named Aaron Rodgers. We think he's pretty good, but no, seriously, I think one of the best things, and Ed he'll be this way. You have to be accessible. It's really, it's probably the most public facing of all professional sports organizations. So being accessible and open to meeting with not only the media but fans, and I think that's something that's really important because, I look at it. I've got hundreds of thousands of bosses, so all of our shareholders, and making sure that that they know that the president and the organization overall is sensitive and open to willing to be open and upfront and honest with people in terms of how the organization is run, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, you mentioned it. You got here and Favre retired, and then he didn't.
Yeah.
And then he did, and then he didn't. What was that like? You were super
it was definitely trial by fire. we have what we call an annual tailgate tour, and so I take 3 current players and 3 former players, and we go across the state and stop in all different communities. It's really one of the things that makes, again, the Packers such a unique organization. But as fate would have it, and timing was, Favre, on the very first day of our tailgate tour, Favre says, I think he made a comment like, I got an itch, and nobody knew what he meant, but the itch was that he wanted to keep playing. And so it's, so every stop on the tour, we never had as much media coverage as we've had before. They were everywhere, but it was a bit of a baptism by fire and trial by fire. But, I think the more I thought about it, looking back on it, it's like anything else in life. Sometimes challenging times end up really working to your advantage, because it really forced me right away to work very closely with a lot of people throughout the organization. And the other thing you find when you move on from a legendary quarterback, it's really helpful to have another legendary quarterback. We didn't know it at the time, but we obviously, it's really funny, especially if Aaron ends up signing with the Minnesota Vikings. It's amazing how history does repeat itself sometimes.
Well, if that happens, it's going to be a one-person show because Trevor's not. He'll pass out and he'll be done.
I will.
I don't want to dwell on the Favre thing too much. I do want to ask, because now you're on the management side of things, but as a guy who played the game, was there a certain amount of understanding that you're like, I get the itch. Like, it's a hard game to give up when it's been your game the entire life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Very, very few players leave on their own. I think, the game retires you. And
yeah.
I was that way. I played 8 years. I wanted to keep playing. And, it's funny though. I don't know if other players have the same sense as I look back on it, 8 years was enough. I'd accomplished, as much as I probably ever could have hoped. And I was very fortunate. I had a job offer with the NFLPA. I'd been accepted to law school. It's a little different now. I think with the money that the players are making, not many, some, but not many work in the off season or go back to school. There's really more focus on training year round, things of that nature. But I do think you can play too long. Because the longer you play, the greater the risk of injuries that'll impact your quality of life once you're done playing. So, but it's hard to turn down. It's not just the money, and especially now with the kind of media attention and things of that nature. It's hard to just walk away from.
How much did playing help set you up for success with the job that you had here at the Packers? Did it make you more relatable to the players, or maybe set you up for, I don't know, thinking about how they're affected by your decisions? What was that like?
I think it's been very valuable, and not just in my position here with the Packers. I think as an athletic director, obviously having been a college athlete as well as in the NFL, and you do. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, it's just professional athletics. It's all about the money, but it's just like I think participation in athletics as a whole, whether it's youth level, high school, college, pro, you really do. You learn valuable life lessons. And I was fortunate. I think of like playing for coaches like Joe Gibbs and George Allen. Some of the lessons I learned from them have helped me not just as a player, but in my positions now in terms of leadership positions and how you manage people and things of that nature. It's really been invaluable.
Yeah, I was thinking you Gibbs, Hall of Fame guys.
Yeah.
GM Bobby Beathard, Hall of Fame guy.
Yeah.
How has your association being with them, under them, shaped how you feel those positions should be handled within your organization?
A lot of it. And some of you wouldn't know, Fred Dunlap was my head coach at Colgate, and he was also the athletic director there, and I succeeded him. So he's another person that has been really instrumental in my career. But yeah, for instance, like a Joe Gibbs, he and I have stayed in touch over the years, and the lessons that I learned from him. I think particularly, I was about halfway through my career in the NFL. And when he came in and kind of set up his program, his leadership style, I was captain of the team at the time. So just learned so much from him, and just the way he interacted. I think a lot of managers, a lot of leaders say, my office is always open. The reality is, it's pretty hard to walk into the boss's office and say, I had some thoughts, what I think we should be doing this or this. But, what I saw with Joe Gibbs, and it's a sophisticated management principle. It's called MWA, management by walking around. But Joe would walk through the locker room, and I have a vivid memory of him, sitting down next to my locker and just saying, how'd practice go today? What do you feel about the game plan? Any changes that you would suggest? And so I've tried to incorporate some of that. Being able to interact with all of your employees is crucial, and particularly being able to meet with them and talk with them in their offices or in their space. You'd be amazed at things that you can learn, and that's really benefited me tremendously in my career.
What was it like going to all the ownership meetings? Not as an owner. I assume you own some stock, but there's a difference, right? And how did they view you? And then what was that like for you with, I don't know, being the pseudo owner without the owner's checkbook, if I'm being honest, right?
It's funny you mentioned that. My wife calls me a phoner, an FAUX owner. It's an owner without the money. But no, it's a great question, and obviously having been on the players' side for so many years, when I first took the job, I wasn't really sure what to expect from the owners' meetings, but it's been really very gratifying. I do think the other teams look at the Packers a little differently just because of our ownership structure, not necessarily in a good way or a bad way, but I think we are respected for a couple of reasons. Number one, the consistent success that we've had on the field. I think people know it's hard to win in the NFL, and it's hard to win on a consistent basis. And then I think just as importantly is the financial success that we've had over the years, and of course, big part of that is the collective bargaining agreements that we've been able to secure with the players. The other thing I'd say. The system in the NFL it really works for everybody. It's owners are doing well. The players, our salaries. I think over the last couple of years, the salary cap's gone up. Almost to $50 million a team over the last 2 years. So it's very, very good times within the NFL, and you guys know the ratings continue to be strong, and I think the system that we put in place really works extremely well for everybody.
So if your predecessor is his sort of legacy is where you're standing, and you can see Lambeau Field atrium behind
Yeah, in
you.
the back. Yeah.
Is yours Titletown, or what should yours be? What would you like us to be writing about Mark Murphy on the way out?
Well, I don't think it's up to me to consider in terms of what my legacy is. But that said, I'd say the consistent success. And Bob Harlan had similar success, but to be able to continue it for the next, the last 16, 17, 18 years. But I think Titletown, I would say overall the support of the community. I think the amount that we contribute and put towards the community has continued to increase. And I really view Titletown, our mixed use development adjacent to the stadium, as that's been an investment in the community. We often nobody puts a full football field in the middle of their development, or a tubing hill and a skating trail. But those have been really well received in the community, and overall, I think Titletown has been something we're all very proud of.
I've got like 8 questions on Titletown, so let's take a quick break. And I feel like it's going to be half of this next segment. More with the Packers CEO and President Mark Murphy in just a bit via the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. Time for another top 5 list here on the Inside Wisconsin Show, presented by our friends at University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Our renowned engineering and STEM programs there at Platteville offer a cutting-edge environment with over 60 majors to choose from. With exciting clubs and organizations, there's always fun happening on campus. Discover why UW-Platteville is a smart investment. Apply now. Yes. uwplatt.edu. Top 5 list time. I got nothing.
Except it's not a top 5 list.
What?
Except it's not a top 5 list.
It's a top 5 something.
Well, we're nothing if not flexible here on Inside Wisconsin.
Valid.
Right. So I know what we talked about, but I'm totally deviating that. We're going to talk, instead of a top 5 list, we are going to compare Mark Murphys. So I don't even know how we designate them. There's Mark Murphy that played for the Washington Redskins, the Washington football team, that is now the GM and the CEO and president. And then there's the Mark Murphy who also played for the Green Bay Packers. 2 different people, but a lot of things that are similar. So I'm going to just see if you know your Mark Murphys. Okay, so we got a bunch of questions. So it's just a modified top 5, and you're going to tell me, what you know about Mark Murphy. Here's what I don't know. Like if you say, oh, well, that's the Packers Mark Murphy, which one are we talking about? So I think for the ground rules, we say the Packers player Mark Murphy, and then maybe the other, whatever you want to call him, President Murphy.
President, player, and president. There we go. We'll do that.
Make it clear who you're going with, okay?
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so the first question is pretty easy. This Mark Murphy has your hairline.
Player
Mark Murphy, correct. He was bald, and obviously, as we've seen here, other Mark Murphy has it. This Mark Murphy was, which Mark Murphy was a Raider, and which one was a Hilltopper in college?
Colgate Hilltoppers. That was a total guess. The player was a Raider. The Prez was a Hilltopper.
So obviously, Mark Murphy, the safety that played for the Packers, was a West Liberty State Hilltopper, and Mark Murphy, the GM and the CEO and president, was a Colgate Raider.
Perfect. Obviously, yep.
Which guy's bigger?
I think the president.
President is. He was 6'4", 210. The other one's 6 foot 200. Which one wore 25? Which one wore 37?
I only am gonna guess. Oh, this is bad. I don't know what position the player played, but I do know that Mark Murphy, the Prez, was the safety. So I'm going to go that he was number 37.
So they were both safeties. Mark Murphy, playing for the Washington football team, was number 25, and the one who was a Packer wore 37.
I'm so bad, even with a 50-50 shot. Okay.
So we're gonna give you this. Which one of these players was drafted?
I'm going to go with the president was drafted.
Neither one of them. They were both unrestricted free agents.
Well,
Okay.
that's okay.
Which one won a Super Bowl? The other played in 2 playoff games.
Which one won a Super Bowl? I know that the president won a Super Bowl.
You are correct. See, you're
Okay.
you're getting better. Match the interceptions with the player. One had 27 career interceptions. One had 20.
I'll go with the player had 27.
Mark Murphy, the player, had 20. Correct. No, sorry. Oh, no, wait. Actually, you missed that again. Sorry about that. Mark Murphy, the president, had 27. Since this is going to stump you, we'll let go on. They both had 1 fumble recovery.
Okay, thanks.
This Mark Murphy made an All-Pro and Pro Bowl team. The other one never did.
I will go with the president made the Pro Bowl.
He did. He was he led the league in interceptions with 9 one year.
Nice.
This Mark Murphy owns a golf course. The other Mark Murphy does not own a golf course in Door County.
I know the Prez owns a golf course.
You are correct, sir. This Mark Murphy scored only one of them scored a touchdown in their NFL career.
I'm going to go with the player scored a touchdown.
Packers, Mark Murphy, the player, yes. An interception, 50 yards and a return off Tommy Kramer against the Vikings.
Oh, not too
And
bad.
here's the last one because this is going to blow your mind.
Okay.
This Mark Murphy coached LeBron James in football in high school, and the other one did not.
I'm going to go with just for geographical reasons only, that the president coached LeBron James.
LeBron James is 40, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your guy's 18. I mean, he'd been 22 when he started here. And before that, he was at Northwestern. Mark Murphy, the former Packer, was a football coach at St. Vincent's and St. Mary's in Akron. And one of his best players was LeBron James.
Holy cow. How cool is that?
I'm just saying, you learn things on the show if you just pay attention.
Did I get half of those right? You don't even know. No.
The good news is we didn't keep score. There's no grading. No, this is a participation trophy.
Oh, I have a couple of those behind me, actually. That's
thanks for playing our game. But I do think that's amazing. And by the way, he said Mark Murphy years ago, they asked him because LeBron said during the one of the lockouts that he thought he started training for football. And I think Mark Murphy said he said if I was going to rank them all time, it'd be like wide receivers he saw. And he said it was Jerry Rice. He might have mentioned Devontae Adams because he watched him. He said Steve Largent, but in the top 5, he'd put LeBron James. He's like, that guy was that good.
wow.
But yeah, it's crazy. Coached him at St. Vincent, St. Mary's.
50-50 shot. That was a good one, John. Thanks. We're back, the Inside Wisconsin show. Trevor John and Mark Murphy, Packers president and CEO. Mark, we were talking about Titletown. Do you remember the moment that was dreamt up? Whose idea was it? And I would have loved to be a fly on the wall going, you know what? Let's buy the Kmart and put some stuff there. What was that like?
Yeah, it was funny you mentioned that, Trevor. Not a single person has ever come up to me and said, God, I wish we still had that Kmart. No, it's something, obviously, a number of different changes have occurred in the league over the years, and development around stadiums it was really starting to take off. So we, before really doing anything, we knew that land was valuable. So we started purchasing land around Lambeau Field. And, actually one of the things we learned an awful lot and talked quite a bit with the Patriots. They had a development around in Foxborough and their stadium, and we really liked a lot of what they did. But as we looked at it, theirs was really it was really nice. They had a lot of community things, but it was like in some ways it was like a big mall adjacent to the stadium. And what we wanted something that was a little more integrated into the community. And so, it took a number of years, and can't believe it's been 5 years since we opened Titletown, but I think it's been well received by the community. The other thing that was really crucial to it was getting and they were all, I think, Wisconsin-based companies, kind of some of our, bookend or important companies like Kohler, Bellin Health has been good, and then they also our restaurant and brewery, Hinterland. So we had three kind of core anchors to open up, and that really got us off to a very good start. And as I mentioned before, having a full football field, there's nothing better than on a game day to come in and see. Mm-hmm. And we put footballs out there, and not many of them have walked away with some of our fans. But to have it open and available for people to use, and of course in the winter with the tubing trail and the skating, and it's grown now. We talk a lot about it. It's a place where people can live. We've got not only townhouses but also apartments for rent. And it's a place to work. We've got an office building that has been very popular, and it's we talk about play and then also eat. There's a lot of good food there, so I think it's really been a nice addition.
I don't miss the Kmart, but I do miss Bob Watoon's gas station, because that's just personal with me. That's where I purchased all my gas as a kid back in the day. So I do miss Bob's. I would argue, by the way, that the Patriots thing, because I've been up there, hasn't really worked as well as they want because of what you said. It's not integrated in the community. It's just kind of out there. There is cool stuff, but it's just kind of, it's more of
I think you're right. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's the Patriots and it's, Boston, but actually Foxborough is, it's a suburb, but it's pretty far out from the city.
Yeah. It's a different kind of deal.
I think it's like halfway between Boston and Providence.
Yeah, it's like a day trip. It's a day trip, and it's not like the Packers where you just drive by and go, well, that might be fun. Let's go throw football when you come through there. So I would argue that the Super Bowl trophy that the Packers have would be a good part of your legacy. Tell me the difference between winning that thing and holding it as a player and holding it as an executive. Probably heard this a lot.
First of all, it's a great feeling no matter how you win. Good. But no, I think. I mean, as a player, I understood, it takes a lot to build a championship team. But when you're in my role and the position I'm in, you have a much better sense that, this takes not just the players, not just the coaches, it's the entire organization. So I have a much better sense of that. I would share something that this is just the Murphy family, but so when I was with the Redskins and we won Super Bowl 17, somehow, some way, my father, Hugh, also known as Big Murph, and I was always Little Murph, somehow he got down on the field. And so I was able to celebrate the Super Bowl championship with my father. And then when we won the Super Bowl against the Cowboys, in the Cowboy Stadium against the Steelers, I brought my son, Brian, down on the field. So kind of a full circle to be able to see, because you realize those are special moments, and to be able to share them with people in your family was really something special.
So then the flip side of that, and listen, I asked Gilbert Brown this, and luckily it was from a safe distance. So if you want to punch me in the arm, you can too.
Losing.
Can you compare the joy of winning one against what that emptiness is to being there and losing that game?
Yeah. And, for us, I think my time with the Packers, I've been 5 NFC championship games, so 1 and 4. And those are tough. And I was fortunate enough to play in 2 Super Bowls with the Redskins and won the first one. Then the second one, did not fare well against the Raiders. And that's just a hollow feeling. But in some ways, at least you make it to the Super Bowl. There's some satisfaction in that. I think losing a conference championship game at home is really tough. Because there's kind of you got the home field advantage, and don't get me wrong, Super Bowls are great, and obviously, but there's something special about playing in front of your home fans, and being able to win. Probably one of my fondest memories of my time with the Redskins was when in 1982 we hosted a NFC championship game against our arch rival, the Cowboys, and The week before we were, this was in the strike shortened year. So
Yep.
everything was a little different. I think there were 16 teams that made the playoffs,
including the Packers, which was different.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Packers won a game too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and I think it was against the Vikings, and we knew if we beat the Vikings, we would play the Cowboys. And I'll never forget looking up in the stands and hearing our fans chant, "We want Dallas." So as we're getting ready to play the Cowboys the next week, they started chanting, "We want Dallas" again. And the RFK Stadium was an old baseball stadium, and I think there were like temporary seats behind our bench. And so watching our fans not only chanting, "We want Dallas," but jumping up and down, it was something. And I thought to myself, yeah, it's going to be tough to beat us. It ended up being a great game.
The accolades and successes in your tenure as president and CEO of the Packers are a mile long. And there are certain things that also probably kept you up at night, whether it was COVID or the transition of head coaches and the transition of GMs. Do you remember some moments that stick out to you, Mark, that were just super tough in the 17, 18 years that you were here?
Boy, yeah. I mean, you mentioned a number of them. Yeah, COVID, it's just, although, I think the league office did a great job getting us all ready and through COVID. And, those were, some tough decisions, and, obviously making personnel decisions, especially, with like Mike McCarthy and Ted Thompson. We've had so much success. Ted's was really health related, and that was really difficult because I had so much respect for Ted. And in terms of Mike McCarthy, just felt like it was time to move on. Obviously we had great success with him, and and he obviously was able to go on and have some success with the Cowboys. But those are really difficult decisions. It's good. What's good though is that we have an executive committee. We've got and ed policy's been really helpful. Some of our senior leaders within the organization. So it never really felt like it was just me making the decision. I was always able to have people that I could bounce things off of and talk to about some of the tough changes that come with any leadership position.
Mm-hmm. You touched on this. Your time you succeeded your football coach as the athletic director at Colgate. You were at Northwestern. Now I know we have the Mark Murphy Endowed athletics director at UWGB. Tell me why it's better to have your name on that job than actually have the job these days.
Well, John, I tell you, I loved working in college athletics. It's great. You're part of the educational process, and to see people come in and not only develop athletically, but grow up and go on and do great things with their lives. What's going on in college athletics now, John, it is just crazy. I don't think it's sustainable. And it's a combination of the NIL, name, image, and likeness payments, and the transfer portal. I mean, we've talked about it before. It would be like in the NFL if we had free agency every year and no salary cap. Yeah, I'll tell you guys a funny story. I go to I always go to the combine, and because there's a lot of league people there, a lot of meetings, and so it's really a positive time to be there. So, but I sit in on interviews with with our prospective draftees, and almost every single one of them had been paid. And I'll never forget, we asked one, we just said, if you don't mind, how much are you getting paid? And he said, no, not much. I think just $400,000. And we were all like, in what world is $400,000 for a college student? Just not much money. But it's out of control, and it'll be interesting. When I was an AD, and I was an AD, gosh, for 17, 18 years, biggest issue for us was gender equity. And since the money as I understand it, I don't think it's as much of an issue now because the money is not coming from the schools; it's coming from the collectives.
Right.
And so it's I think if the colleges and whether they do it just by sport or across the board, they need to have something similar to the NFL model. It needs to be collectively bargained, and you need to have some of the things in place that we have that really make it work not only for management but also for the athletes.
I think the worst part too is with all this is, I mean, you worked at Northwestern. We've lost the value of the scholarship. And if you could be a scholarship and have a degree from Northwestern and get that paid for, like that's no
a great
small
deal.
thing.
Yeah.
And we seem to have minimized that it's just, okay, sure, that's the part of it. Now what am I getting paid?
The other thing, and interviewing these athletes, it was a rarity that a player had only been to one school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand, being able to transfer but there's also something to be said for sticking to things when if you start school as a freshman and maybe things don't go the way you want, you don't play right away. Work harder and think about, talk to your coaches. What can I do differently? Now it's just too easy to just say, all right, I'm gonna transfer. And so I do worry about that aspect as well.
Mark, you know where I sit for UWGB men's games, and
Yeah.
I don't get to sit there, though, for the women's games. I've seen you at games at UWGB for years. Actually, it was one of the last women's games. My wife and I were there, and we noticed that Chancellor had an open seat next to him. So I text him and say, what's going on down there? And he said, Mark Murphy had something come up. And so I got to sit courtside with Chancellor. So whatever you had come up, I really appreciate that. Thank you for that.
I love my involvement with UWGB. Having been, at Colgate and Northwestern, really did miss that. So I'm on the Council of Trustees and really enjoy working with Michael. I think he's doing a great job. It was a challenging year for the men's team, obviously. I think, Doug kind of he came in at a tough time. I think it was because of the timing. It was kind of late, and a lot of the players had already either transferred out or lost on some commitments. So hopefully this next season will bounce back. But it's unbelievable, the women's program. It's just continue to have great success, and excited to see what they can do in the NCAA tournament coming up.
And all of that brings us to today. There's this whole NFL draft thing coming to town that we haven't even touched yet.
Yeah.
How much is that dream coming to life for you? Because I know this is something that you guys have worked on for a long time.
Yeah, you're right. It's been very, very gratifying. And I think, once the league, and I think it was like 2015 or 16, the league, after hosting in New York City for many, many years, decided to take it on the road. Started off, I think, in Chicago for a couple of years. And around that time, we raised our hands and said, what about Green Bay? And quite honestly, I really wondered whether or not we would ever be able to host the draft. I think the concern at the league level was, relatively small number of hotels that we have in Green Bay. So fortunately, I think they're looking more at the entire region and how many hotel rooms we have, all the way down to Milwaukee and, through the Fox Valley and up to Green Bay. So, but yeah, when we found out in 2023, it was exciting and really, really happy for the entire community. Actually, the whole state. I think it's going to be a great event. It'll be, a 3-day commercial for Wisconsin, and it'll be the biggest event ever held in Green Bay. We anticipate or estimate over the entire period of the draft, there'll be 250,000 people here. So it's a league event, but we're obviously very involved, and it's really going to be exciting. I think our fans here are going to love it, and I think, and you guys know this, Lambeau Field will be front and center, and Lambeau Field is one of those stadiums I think a lot of people across the league are like, I want to see Lambeau Field, and I think this is going to be an opportunity for people that have always wanted to come to Lambeau Field, and also to be able to see the draft. It's going to be something that's pretty special.
Yeah, it's pretty special. All right. My phone's ringing going, Trevor, hey, man, how you doing? How you been? Can I stay at your house? Yeah, okay. All right, that's fine.
Trevor, you going to rent your house out, or are you going to stay there?
Absolutely not. I'm staying here. I moved here for this stuff like this. I'll be here. We're here. All right. We'll wrap it up with Mark Murphy, Packers president and CEO. 2 minutes, the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. J.A., we've talked to Mark about all of the expansion that he was a part of when he has had 17 years here, right? One of the most impressive ones, though, that I don't think we talked much about was adding on to the south end of Lambeau Field and the Festival Foods MVP deck. Have you been up in the MVP deck? It is glorious.
Not when it has been staffed and active during a game.
Okay.
I went through, on one of the tours, and they actually stop in there and they tell you this is where, this is what it is. This is who it is, because it's got unbelievably cool stuff in there. But I have not, but I am willing to accept invitations.
You get a little wristband that's got a couple tokens for beer, plus all the food that you would ever want. And knowing that you've been to a game with me, you'll know that that is right up my alley. It's all right there. Yeah,
you're a bit of a grazer.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Sometimes that'll be a John. Sometimes we'll make that a John Wisconsin. I've only watched Sitting with Trevor once, but I just know that he saw maybe 2/3 is too much of the game. You didn't see 2/3 of it. I'm just saying you spent a lot of time up and out and back concourse, got to come back. Yeah.
Pocket beers.
I know. And then I annoyed you. You're like, do you need it? I'm like, no, I'm watching football.
You should. Yeah, I think you said that. You should try that sometime.
By that. Yeah. You need it? No, I'm going to sit here and watch a football game. That's why I came.
I'm there for the football and the Festival Foods part as well. Festival Foods, the official grocery and tailgating headquarters of the Green Bay Packers. And thanks to Mark Murphy and a little bit of Festival Foods, I'm assuming, the Festival Foods MVP deck this season. Watch for your opportunities to enjoy a game up there and fill your fridge for whoever's renting out your house. Here comes the draft in April.
I was just going to say, at some point, if you go to Festival Foods and just bring it home, watch the game, you've made your own Festival Foods deck. Like you can, make your own.
Also valid. Yeah, they have everything there. I think that you would have got up in the MVP deck. That's true.
A lot of it's in the flyer.
Okay. Yep. We're back, the Inside Wisconsin Show, wrapping it up with Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy. All right, 2 for me, and then the ever-famous J.A. lightning round. Here's my first one. John mentioned it earlier. Bob Harlan Plaza and the atrium is behind you, and his project was essentially save the Packers. And nobody thought there could be more, and then you come along and go, hold my beer, and you bring Titletown to life and the draft now and all these things. If you had a magic 8 ball, what's coming in the next 17, 18 years that we don't even see yet? Or maybe
that's a great question. And I think Ed's going to put his stamp on it. I think, continuing to invest in the stadium and the community. I think international is going to become bigger. So that's something that making sure that we still don't want to take too many games away from the community here for the away games. But Ed is definitely ready to step in, and I'm sure he'll put his stamp on it. But we've grown tremendously as an organization. But I think the growth has come for good reasons. It's there's popularity, and I think I think you'll see some additional, and Ed's got a lot of thoughts on some of the different things that we can do related to Titletown that I think people will be excited about.
Last one for me.
Yeah.
Have you been in the room where somebody said that we should change the name of the Lombardi Trophy, and did you smack them?
I have not been in the room,
Okay, good.
but I would smack anybody that came up with.
Yeah.
No.
So, okay, good. Just wanted to make sure.
No, that's part of what makes the Packers organization so special. That we had a coach that the Super Bowl trophy is named after is pretty special. No, and it would be crazy. It's so recognizable now, and I think and
You heard that, right?
we have a huge replica of it that we can't change.
It's amazing.
So, this just dawned on me before I jump into these quick ones, because you're here. We know how Vince Lombardi is revered in Green Bay. What is his stamp, or what do they think of him within the Washington organization? Because obviously he was there a short time before he passed.
Oh, sure. Oh, he was revered. I mean, just wherever. And I think one of the great things that he's known for is he was way ahead of his time in terms of diversity and equity and inclusion. But it's funny because there were a couple of players that I played with that overlapped, and I remember them telling stories about how special it was to be able to play for Lombardi, and he kind of got them turned around. Yeah.
Had a good year. Had the yellow helmet that came with the R in it after the Packer G. He did a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to run through these real quick. First off, Trevor just did horrible. You didn't see it, but he just did horrible on a Mark Murphy quiz between you and the fella that played for the Packers. But how often have you ever been mistaken for him?
Not when anybody has seen me or him in person.
Got it.
I'll just say that. I have a little more hair than he does. But
Good.
No, we do get confused for each other. But he's a great guy, and he comes back quite a bit, and it's great to see him. And actually he lives in the Akron, Ohio area.
Yeah.
And my wife Lori, her family was settled in Akron, so some connections there as well.
So I've taken the stadium tour, I don't know how many times, because one of my best buddies gives the tours, and I like to just go and listen to him and answer questions. But I've walked by the Monday Night Football.
We should pay extra when you're on the tour.
I just watch around. But I've seen pictures of the Monday night game in '83 there. How is it you let that happen?
Geez,
off the walls or something?
Yeah, I have joked. I've tried to take it down. I thought when I first saw that, like in my first week on the job, it was, oh gosh, 48-47.
Yeah,
we were like we had won in 82 and 83. Like we dominated the NFL.
Yeah,
it was our worst loss. And the other thing, we would have won that. Mark Mosley missed a 37-yard field goal, and he was the reigning MVP. So no, but I think as hard as it was, we need to keep it up there because that was a great win for the Packers.
Yeah, well, you can always adjust your route, and I play every summer. I play in Mark May's golf tournament, and literally, if I even breathe, I made the mistake of breathing at once, and he just walked like he literally will not even ignore. He did tell me, he goes, we lost 2 games that year, and both of them were by a point.
Yeah,
like, that's how good that team was. Well, yes. You lost like the opener to the Cowboys, and then that, but like 2 points from being. He's like, that's how good we were. All right, tell me, why'd you buy a golf course?
Couple of reasons. Well, first of all, I love golf, although you wouldn't know it if you watched me play. But my wife and I love Door County. We've got a place up there, and she's got a lot of real estate that she loves to buy houses and renovate them. And so we had gotten wind that the golf course, Max Walton Braes, was going to be sold to developers. So I wanted to make sure it stayed a golf course. I've played it many times. Just a great layout. It's it's almost 100 years old now. So wanted to make sure it stayed a golf course. And there's a NFL connection too. So back in the 30s and 40s, travel was not as easy as it is now. So when teams would come to the Midwest from like LA, the Rams, they'd come to the Midwest and they'd stay a week, and they'd play the Bears one week and the Packers the next. And they would stay up in Door County, and they would practice on the 11th fairway of Max Walton Braes. I mean, can you imagine that today? Like,
Oh. Well, I say that a lot about it. Like my brother played high school football games in Lambeau Field. And I'm like, you don't even let people look at the grass now, let alone play on it.
oh, if somebody on a tour walks on the grass, they're like, well, there's an investigation.
Yeah.
That takes a fix your divot to the whole next level.
Yeah. You're okay. Are you a Packers stockholder?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Best club in your bag?
Oh, I'm going to say Sevenwood.
Okay, good.
Rarely use Sevenwood.
Love the Heavenwood.
I can't hit the 3 or 4 irons anymore.
What kind of toothpaste do you use?
Crest.
The guy from Colgate.
Although I know.
That's incredible.
I thought that was the most random question.
There's no connection between Colgate and Colgate Palmolive.
Okay.
I just thought maybe you would just be brand loyal anyway. In 1932, the Colgate football team should have been the national champ. Yes or no?
Absolutely. Undefeated, untied, and unscored upon.
There you go.
And uninvited.
Uninvited.
Didn't go to a Super Bowl.
Finish
number a bowl game.
Finish number 5. The best player you played with?
Oh, John Riggins.
Oh, love that guy.
Yeah.
And the best player
and a great guy. I mean, I just funny and sense of humor. when he held out one year, and the media asked him, well, "Why'd you come back?" He goes, "Basically, it was I'm bored, and I'm broke, and I'm back."
It's like unscored upon and uninvited. Everybody's got to have a tagline. Who's the best player you played against?
Roger Staubach. He was towards the end of his career, but he was a winner.
Have you ever eaten at Al's Hamburgers?
Absolutely. Yeah. Downtown Green Bay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Better journalism school, Missouri or Northwestern?
Well, I know I'm talking. I'm a little bit of an elitist. I'd say Northwestern.
Okay.
Oh, this is what I needed. Here's a Medill guy. Person in the Packers organization who you could not have done this job with for 18 years.
Nicole Ledvina, our Vice President of Human Resources. She's instrumental.
Very good.
And the other thing I would say, Bob Harlan was really helpful. And continues to be helpful.
Sure. So Green Bay is in northeast Wisconsin. You touched on this. Where exactly does Western New York start? Because I can't tell if it's in Oneonta or Finger Lakes. Where does Western New York start?
I would say Rochester.
Okay.
I consider Rochester part of Western New York. And then all the way down to Olean and Jamestown.
Okay.
Buffalo right in the middle.
Why didn't you buy Oak Hill? That would have been a great place to buy.
I think that might have been outside of my price range.
Okay. Bigger draft concern: Snow or Goody trades out of the first round?
Well, Snow is not a concern. That's from the league perspective. They want it.
Okay.
That's going to be so. And Brian and I joked about it. He can do whatever he wants. If he thinks we need to, fans be damned. If they can start booing if we trade out, but Brian knows what he's doing. And so, you've been there. We'll trade down, we'll trade up, we go back and forth. And I tell you, it's one of the best parts of my job is being able to be in the draft room and just kind of see that whole process unfold. Because, when you're a player, you just never know. By the way, John, have I ever told you my draft day story?
No.
All right. I'll make it. I know we're running out of time. I'll make it very short. So 1977, spring of 1987, I'm a senior at Colgate. Draft then was held over 12 rounds over 2 days. Got a call the very first day of the draft from George Allen, head coach of the Redskins. He says, "Mark, we really like you. We're going to fly you down. We're going to draft you. We're going to have a press conference to announce you're drafting." Like, oh my God, I was in heaven. So they didn't have phones or anything then. So they set me up and I took a flight down to Washington, D.C. Didn't get drafted the first day. So I figured I got up bright and early, put my sport coat on. I was all ready. And so they put me in a car and I was out at Dulles Airport and they drove me to downtown Washington and had lunch, and which was great. But I was kept thinking, what's going on? I'm going to get drafted. And then the driver, we didn't have cell phones then, and the driver kept stopping at payphones and making calls. So finally, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, pull up at the Redskins practice facility, Redskin Park out in near Dulles Airport. And George Allen calls me into his office and says, Mark, draft just ended. You weren't drafted. Here's a contract. Why don't you take a minute, read through it, and sign it? Then he turns to his assistant and he says, if Mark doesn't sign it, let's get that safety from Oklahoma that we like so much. So I was like, what's going on? Well, obviously, make a long story, they had no intention of drafting me. George didn't like rookies. He didn't like draft picks. So they didn't have a lot of draft picks. So they had to come up with other ways to get players. So I actually called back to my apartment where my girlfriend, who is now my wife, was like, what the heck's going on? What are you doing? I said, what do you mean? He goes, all these teams are calling and nobody can get in touch with you. So they hit me out. I didn't like it. But they were most of the teams wanted me to put on weight and play linebacker. And they wanted me to stay a safety. So I felt a little bit better about that. So ended up signing for $21,000, $2,500 bonus. And, over the years, and you probably know Bruce, George's son, Bruce, I've gotten to know him through league meetings and connections. And so just happenstance, a couple of years ago, I went up to Bruce and said, did your father ever tell you what he did to me on the draft? And he looked at me and he said, quit complaining. It worked out all right for you.
Have you tried that? That's genius.
No, they actually, I think it was like the year after they did it to me, the league prohibited it. You can't fly anybody in for the draft.
That is so funny. I just have one more. I see pictures of you looking miserable during games, worried, sick because you can't control and can't play. Will you ever be able to just go sit somewhere in the bowl and watch a football game of the Packers play and just let it wash
over
the
game?
Yeah, and just let it wash over you? Or do you feel that, it's just...
No, I mean, I think as time goes on, probably a little bit, but I think these next few years, I'm so invested, with Brian and Matt and Russ Ball. I mean, we've all worked together for so many years that want to see them have success because we've been so close, and we definitely are on, I think, on the verge of winning championships.
Well, we hope so, because it is, I always say it's amazing to have grown up when I did in the 70s and see what the team was, which has always still been a public trust and love that. But the difference of what the whole confidence of the city and its citizens are when that team is good. And it's an amazing thing. And to do it for 30 some odd years that they've done it since Wolf and Harlan and Wolf and Holmgren, kind of that triumvirate, and that you've had able to help see that through now 3 decades is really amazing. Best of luck to you. I still really think you should have called me. I would have totally just opened up the coffers to help you buy the golf course, but I'm willing to pay the green fees next time.
You know what? I can get you on, and we'll waive the green fee.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Mark Murphy.
All right. Thanks, guys.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
Is it weird to us that he's the owner, yet we don't have an owner? It'd be like sitting down with Jerry Jones, only he wouldn't be nearly as charismatic as Mark Murphy is. Let's be real.
No, Jared would be and use some other words. And no, I don't think so. I guess maybe I'm just used to what that is. But I thought he touched on things where he's like, they like some of what the Packer organization does. There's some things that, they respect them. Because as many times you might find a player or a coach or a GM that would say, boy, I'd love to have that Packer situation. No owner ever would, because he's the owner and he's got all the money. That's the one place about the whole Packer system, as great as it is, as much as it's respected, it's the one position that no one in the NFL would swap, because there's no way that, like, I don't want to have, I got to be the owner, right? Nobody is giving up. I'm the owner of the NFL team. So that person those are the only people that don't someday go, it'd be kind of fun to play in Green Bay or work in Green Bay or do something, except if you're, Jerry Jones or Robert Kraft or any of those guys,
I giggled that his wife was trolling him when she said, "You're the faux owner, FAUX."
Yeah.
Just on the checkbook.
We're having a phoner. Yep, that's what it is. But listen, it's what makes us unique and what gives us talking points. And it is very much, as I said, it's what makes you go anywhere in the country and half the time anywhere in the world, and people know exactly where you're from. Which, think about the number of cities with 100,000 people that are just like it's kooky.
I didn't put it together that him and I arrived in Green Bay in the same year. We moved here in 2007, and so
That's
did
probably
he.
why he's been so successful.
Oh, clearly.
Knowing that your guidance is always available if needed.
And I've talked to him a number of times over the years, so I'm just saying.
Probably.
I'm just saying.
Sure. In that case, let me tell you some things you need to get your ass solving now. No.
Got it.
As long as you got all this power.
I think Ed lives in the community too. Just saying.
He does.
Here's a hot spot for success in regards to the Packers president jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Our thanks to Mark Murphy. Thanks also to the crew over at the Packers that helped set that up. It is not easy to get on that guy's schedule, especially for as long as he granted us in terms of his time. So really great to catch up with him. And let's see. How weird is it, by the way? 18 years, and then we'll see. Ed Policy, 18 years. I just thought that was odd.
Bought a golf course, 18 holes. He said I was an athletic director, 17, 18 years. I didn't want to interrupt him, but I'm like, okay, cool. We got a pattern.
Yeah. Partial to the number 18.
Can't wait.
All right, J.A., what's the latest tale from John? I love, by the way, that you can't not have a show without mentioning. I think Byron has probably come up in literally every episode we've ever done of Inside Wisconsin.
Listen, I'm bucking that we get B. Freilich as a guest because she's just one of the most interesting women in the world in terms of Packer organization. When they signed the penny sales tax, right? Who was there? B. She was up on stage. She's just Byron's mom is like Byron. Great, we love him, but he's no B. Freilich. Everybody knows B. She's a pillar of the community.
Time for John, Wisconsin. What's the latest?
Well, I'd given this some thought, and it was because Mark was on, and we touched on it briefly. That 48-47 Monday night football game.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, I'm sitting very close right now where I was the night that happened. Because I was a freshman and I was just a 6-minute walk here from my office watching that game on TV thinking, I can't believe the Packers really got a Monday night game. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm missing this Monday night game. Here I am. And my friends, it was early, right? It's early in the year. It happened in September. I'd been here like 8 weeks, but we still had people jammed in my dorm room watching it. We went crazy about that. So I was thinking about other games that I missed that I would have loved to have seen.
Okay.
Right. So that game in '83, that Monday night game is a game that I would have loved to have seen. I think some of these other ones, they're in no order. I got a couple of them. You might have seen some of them. Okay. The other one that I really touched on and he mentioned, and because I had one of my favorite cousins in the world got married, so I didn't see the '82 Packer playoff win against the Cardinals. That was the strike-shortened season. It's the one time they made the playoffs between Lombardi and Holmgren, with the exception of the '72 team. But they make this 16-team tournament that the Redskins now Commanders, won. So they play the Cardinals, Neil Lomax, and they drill them. They play great. They pound them. So I missed that game.
Me too.
You would have not, 82, not before you. I missed a game in 1972 because I didn't have seats yet. It was played at Lambeau Field when Jack Tatum returned a fumble 104 yards, which at the time was the NFL record. Might still be. He broke the record that was previously held by George Hallis, of all things. But it was just Scott Hunter was there, and they played this little option pass, option play. He faked it to Brockington, threw it to Matt Lane, and he kicked it in the end zone. He went. So I would love to have been there, but that was one where I was listening to it on the radio, and then you hear him score, and it's impossible. And then you heard this giant groan, as 3 seconds later when it came through. So that one I missed that I would have loved to. And these other ones you may or may not have been to.
All right.
I would have loved to have been at the Al Harris wild card overtime pick six game.
Wasn't there, but I watched it.
With Matt Hasselbeck. We'll take the ball. We're going to score.
Yep. Remember it like yesterday.
Yeah. Next time he needs to clarify which team. And the other one I would have loved to have been is when they finally made the Super Bowl, when they beat the Panthers in the NFC Championship game for the first time. You missed that one too.
the first time. What do you mean?
So that's homegrown.
Oh,
And
NFC
go to the Super
Championship
Bowl,
game.
beat the NFC Championship game. They beat
Got
the Panthers, and now they're going back. They go to New Orleans. They get to beat the Patriots.
Got it.
And I would have loved to have been at that game too.
Sure.
As much as I had a really fulfilling childhood, there were a few things that are never going to be checked in the box, and those are the games. The Monday Nighter was the one that just, and he talked about the missed field goal by Mark Mosley, who misses that, and there was a great cartoonist in the old Green Bay News Chronicle, which is the morning paper. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so the Press Gazette came in the afternoon, and the News Chronicle came in the morning. And their cartoonist, Mr. Leahy, I only know him by the name Mr. Leahy because I went to school with both his kids at Southwest, but he was a great deal. And he always had he had these kind of reoccurring characters. But anyway, so he's drawing Lambeau Field, and the coach or somebody's talking to the ref, and there's a little mouse. And he said, all I can figure is that everybody on the east side of the stadium exhaled at the same time as everybody on the west side of the stadium inhaled. And that's what moved the ball out just outside the game, just outside the upright, and lo and behold, the Packers win. And I think it might still be, no, it's been surpassed. For a while, it was the longest, the highest scoring Monday Night Football game ever, 95. And I forget who passed. It might have been like a Chiefs-Bengals game or something. Anyway, so
do you have a game or two that really stick out that you were able to attend over the years?
Oh yeah, I was lucky. I've been at good ones. I was at the Lambeau Leap game, even though I didn't live in town. I was at Yancey Thigpen dropped the ball and they win the division title game.
Remember that?
I was at Mike Holmgren's return game when he was there. I was there on Thanksgiving Day when in the rain and horrible when they retired Favre's number. I was there for the Marco Miracle. You know, there were some other ones that stick out that were less memorable to other people. We had a 10-10 tie with the Vikings one time in a really, really cold game that I thought they were going to win. I remember around Thanksgiving one time or Christmas when they played the Falcons, and former Packer Dave Hampton went over 1,000 yards and then got tackled and lost and then didn't have 1,000-yard season. So there were a bunch of games like that when I was a kid that I can remember that were amazing, but don't show up on anybody's radar. They're just, you're a kid and you just remember them.
I think I was at, and then we'll get out of here and let you get back to your life. There was two that really stick out to me, and they happen to be back-to-back games. It was the Seattle Snow Bowl with Favre, where Grant fumbled twice in a row, and we ended up winning. Yep. And then the NFC Championship game right after Mark Murphy got here that we lost to the Giants.
Is that the one where, what's his name, Coughlin's face froze off?
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
Redder than red. Somebody should have told him that. We have things that help with that, guy.
No, he's football tough, man.
Yeah,
you can't ask the guys to be tough if you're not going to be tough. But that was, talk about a tough loss.
Yeah,
that was hard. But the worst one was when it was like 75 degrees in January and Michael Vick came in and rolled over everybody with the Falcons.
Remember that
and
too.
Just pounded them, which should just show it needs to be cold. Unseasonably warm doesn't work well for us. That's not our thing.
Stories for another episode. Our thanks to Mark Murphy, Packers president and CEO. Those are some big shoes to fill, but Ed Policy seems to be the guy. It'll be fun to watch. As you were, Wisconsin, for John, I am Trevor. We'll see you next time. Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Shut up and sit down.